Hello and welcome to another live video straight from
Hello.
Woodward. How are you, Renata?
I'm fine. How are you, Leo? Nice to see you again.
Nice to see you. I see you enjoying your time
Yes.
uh, and having fun over there in Sao Paulo in
Yeah,
Brazil.
I've been in São Paulo for 3 weeks. Yeah, but I'm coming back this week. I miss Miami.
All right, it's time for you to come back home.
Yep.
So I understand you have some questions regarding, regarding life abroad. Since
Life
you are,
abroad. Exactly. Yeah. Well, I have been talking to some American friends here, and then when they ask me, well, I tell them what I do for a living, which we help people move where they want to live, where they want to invest, where they want to spend their time with their family and their businesses. So they're like, okay, so why do people want to come to America? And then I tell all the great things about living in America, and I ask them, where would you like to live if you were not in America? Why not try it somewhere else? So they're very curious about living abroad. They're very curious about it.
and there are many reasons why would Americans and peoples from other nationalities would not want to live necessarily in the U.S. I mean,
Yeah.
For the same reason that you and I were motivated to leave Brazil and go live in America. In my case, I lived in 6 different countries, including the U.S.
Hmm.
But in that regard, there are many reasons why, and
Yeah.
the reasons that we see nowadays is there are several ones. First one is actually education. A lot of people are doing college abroad.
Yes. Yes.
So American.
Sorry to interrupt.
So,
It's a great point because I have a few nephews, and they are all within that age bracket of being in a university and college, and they tell me that surprisingly, some of their friends are choosing to go to university in Europe instead of the U.S., which is not a common thing until a couple of years back.
right,
U.S. would be the first choice, and now it's being made diverse, which is a good thing.
correct.
Yeah.
Because also you have to think about it. In most European countries, you have this diversification in terms of ways in which you can attend college in university. There are ways as well that you can attend those schools without having to pay completely for free. I mean, take the example of
You mean
Norway.
scholarships?
Yeah, as an example, in Norway, you can elect um, uh, to uh, to have a college degree completely paid by the Norwegian government. There is this option. There are many options.
Does it involve having to stay there and work there for a few years? To use the knowledge you acquired in school. Is this a kind of a trade off?
In certain cases, yes, but in most cases, no. Actually,
Okay.
because you know, education in Norway, as an example, is supposed to be open for everybody. As you can imagine, it's a very egalitarian type of society. So you go to school with billionaires and people in the
Okay.
lower end of the social spectrum.
Everybody has access. Yeah.
Everybody has access together in the same way. So that is actually very incredible and very powerful. When I was visiting recently, Norway, I was just blown away by things that I didn't know. I've been to Norway before, but this time around, I was like, wow, this is really incredible.
Like
Yeah, really incredible. But there are other reasons why people would move outside the United States or
Yeah.
even move from Europe to go somewhere else instead of the U.S. And in most cases nowadays, when somebody's already an adult with a career and established career somewhere, they will very likely be moving for reasons like the benefit of tax planning.
Mhm.
Uh,
Okay.
like for instance, in my case, I decided to move from the U.S. to the UAE. I live in Dubai, as you know. For
Yeah.
me, it's a little bit more. Uh, it makes things a little bit more affordable, more streamlined for my tax as well. So I'm an American citizen. I will never relinquish my U.S. citizenship, but I
Mhm.
live in the UAE with a good tax structure that allows me to, as an American, to be living abroad and come back to the U.S. and visit and do business meetings here, and go back to the UAE and maintain a very extremely reduced tax bracket because I live over there. So
yeah, and a lot of people don't know that the UAE is actually attracting many professionals. They are in need of professionals in many categories, right, Leo?
right, absolutely.
People don't know that. People don't know
Yeah,
that.
and if you can imagine it, there's a specifically aspect about the the U.S. tax code, which is the foreign earned income exclusion, right? And the foreign earned income exclusion on a tax code allows you to have an income up to until 150,000 US dollars abroad, and you need to declare it to the IRS, but you
Okay.
do not need to pay the tax
Okay.
because you're earning that abroad. So it's a foreign
Okay.
exclusion. So actually, it's very meaningful for a lot of people
Yes.
who are not making six-figure salaries or up until $150,000
Yeah.
as a salary. That's quite significant, and they do not have to report. They have to report it, but they don't have to pay tax on any of it to the U.S. government or any government in that case if they're living in Dubai. So as an example, that's one of the many ways to do it. I think the third example of that is the slew of people that are living, now Americans as an example, or even French nationals who are living in Portugal under the existing tax regime, which is called the non-habitual resident tax regime. And that non-habitual resident tax regime allows people to live in Portugal and only pay tax on income that is derived from Portugal.
From Portugal.
Not from
Any
income,
nationality, Leo?
any nationality. So
Okay.
you look at people who are French as an example, who is always very heavily taxed, and if they're making money, say, that's as an example. Let's say if they're making money in Dubai, and the money is not taxed over there, and they are living, they're French and they're living in Portugal, they're not deriving income from Portugal, right? So, and
Okay.
that even applies for people who are Portuguese nationals and are living in Portugal, but they're deriving income from abroad, and they actually have a fixed residency abroad. So Americans are also catching up to the fact that living abroad can be a lower cost of living. So we have a lot of Americans nowadays living in places like Portugal. Like Greece.
Yeah.
Well.
Yeah. I have a couple of friends in America who are actually thinking about Portugal because of cost of living. And Portugal is their choice. They don't speak the language at all because it's very different, but still, because of cost of living, Portugal is their choice. So you think Americans could make a very good living if they have for instance, their 401k in America, but they could have a good living in Portugal.
Absolutely, and they can have what's called a D7 visa, and that D7 visa is for people who actually have their own income. They do not need to work in Portugal. Although you are allowed to work under a D7 visa, if you prove that you have enough income it's not much. It's about 8,000 euros per year.
It's not at all. Not
right?
At all. And how's health costs in Portugal for foreigners?
Zero. As long as you are a resident in Portugal, you are entitled to the healthcare service over there, and it's quite affordable. You don't pay for a lot of things. You pay for medication, right? But it's very affordable because it's subsidized by the Portuguese government and to a certain extent. So Portugal is quite good and has a very excellent standard of living. It's an extremely safe country, safe environment. Is very, very, very little. I mean, it's the lowest violence rate in Europe. To be honest with you, so it's
great weather.
Yeah, they have nice beaches. You are, and obviously, Madeira, the island, is so beautiful and so diverse. Is one of the most beautiful islands in the world, which has such a diverse biodiversity that is incredible. And I think that Yeah, and I'm extremely fond of the Portuguese weather, because it's really nice. You can have a
Yeah.
crisp winter
Yeah.
without the the
Without the
pound.
hassle of the extreme snow.
Exactly. And you can have a nice summer as well, which is really
Yeah.
mild, and you got the, it's really good. I mean, I
Yeah.
really like Portugal in that regard.
And you are a few hours away from practically every country.
Exactly.
Maybe a one day drive, a day's drive, but not much more than that. Not much more than
Yeah,
that.
and the ideal drive, honestly, is for you to start in Portugal, go through Spain, and go through,
Yeah.
go through France and Italy, and go up to the,
Yeah.
Netherlands, and all, all the Benelux, right? The Belgium,
Yeah.
Netherlands, and Luxembourg, and then you end up, crossing the channel with, going to England, and then coming back through, through France, and going down. It's a beautiful drive. It's one of the most
It's a
beautiful
beautiful
drives I've
drive.
ever done. And you can even do it by train as well, which is really remarkable.
Leo, do you think that the language is a barrier for Americans abroad?
No, I mean, listen, with Europe has developed. I mean, looking at places like, in Europe as a whole, right? So obviously, you're not going to find everybody that speaks English. I mean, as
Yeah.
opposed to where we are from, it's very hard for you to be an expat in Brazil, because you don't have a lot of the population that, the populace that actually speaks
That
English.
speaks English, yeah.
But the fact of the matter remains, in Europe, you have a lot of people who are very well educated, very well
Mhm.
trained, and they do have
Basic
access.
education is for everyone. Yeah.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
they do have the ability to learn, and they have access to that. So there are more people that are actually fluent in English, and there is actually, in terms of a culture, there is that notion that they try to communicate, right? It's not a place where they're going to say, "Oh, I'm not going to try to communicate." And nowadays, as I travel, I mean, I've traveled to more than 135 countries around the world. So, and I can tell you that I've only found, to be honest with you, I've
Uh,
only found a handful of places around the world where I really thought that, there was no effort from the
oh,
locals
really?
to actually,
Even touristic places? Well, not that much.
yeah, to actually communicate, right? So I saw that there are a lot of places around the world that they actually are able to communicate. So Portugal is a very international place, like we see in the comment here from the viewer. I see Greece as well. Greece is extremely coming up right now. Very affordable. They have wonderful programs for expats. They also have a number of opportunities in terms of visa opportunities for people to invest in property and get their second home or third home.
Uh-huh.
But also, if you look at other opportunities as well, let's say, for instance, okay, Lee, I don't care whether or not it's snowing, if it is cold. I just want to live in an environment that's really nice. You can actually buy a nice cottage in the in the woods with good infrastructure. Actually, well, cottage in the woods, quote unquote, but it's with good infrastructure, with an extremely nice health system in Norway, for a fraction of the cost that you will buy a house in the U.S.
In the
I mean,
US.
I'm looking at houses that are really, really affordable for 150,000
And good
euros
financing as well, financing structured
with
also.
financing in Norway. And I'm like, this is absurd. Once people catch up with that, this is going to disappear
It's
from the market.
crazy. Yeah.
You know,
As long as you have good internet, right? You just
they
need good
do.
internet connection.
The internet in Norway is amazing. So
Really?
fast, is really, really good. Do you know why? Because
Why?
because of their connection to the oil drilling, right? In the
Okay.
North Sea. They need to have good internet to provide infrastructure and communications to, to places like the North Sea. So, and because all those cables, for people who don't know, a lot of the internet around the world is still done by fiber optic cables. And the fiber optic cables are connected in places like, Finland, Norway, Sweden, and connecting the islands of Sweden, and then connecting over to the UK, and then connecting over to...
So the physical connection is actually better, and it's more stable.
It's more stable, exactly. Yeah. And people think, oh, in Norway, in the everybody speaks English in Norway. Everybody.
That I know. Yeah. So, that I know.
Well, I'm really taken back in places like Norway and Sweden and Denmark as well. Denmark is amazing.
Amazing.
Such a great quality of living. I don't know if you know this. There are a lot of American artists that live in places like Denmark.
So why artists specifically?
Because I think it's because of the way that it's a very cultural environment, right? So you have American movie stars who are actually living in Denmark, especially during the spring, summer, and fall. So, and they
schools, good art schools there.
They have.
Maybe one of the reasons, yeah.
And Denmark has a great standard of living. For those who appreciate a lot of good wine, they are the biggest consumers of natural wine. And they really have.
Okay. Explain natural wine.
Natural wine.
Explain natural wine. I never had wine is something
really people need to understand. This is very European, by the way, very, very European. So natural. I'm not a wine drinker, as a lot of people don't know, but I've learned this through friends that actually, natural wine is it basically is without sulfites, right? You have fermentation without sulfites, so it's a natural process of fermentation, and it doesn't have any added chemicals, any added sulfites in order to make any kind of preservation.
So extremely organic.
It's like the extreme version of the organic, right?
Okay.
And it's very good wine. You very, very good wine for those who appreciate. And in Denmark, they have like natural wine bars everywhere, and the food is great and all that. And the quality of living in Denmark is pretty good. The quality of education, schools are excellent. And yes, I see the comment here. In Ireland as well, is tax-free for artists. Exactly. So artists, there's a lot of people who park their intellectual property like Apple, LinkedIn, Airbnb.
Well, in Ireland, yeah.
In Ireland, you know why? Because it's intellectual property, and also a lot of artists protect their songwriting and their copyrights where? In Ireland, because the law protects it and it's tax-free. So that is really, really a good
smart,
a good part. So a lot of people they have reasons to go and live in different places around the world.
Yeah.
And I think that you're looking at the flow of Europeans going to live right now, having a second home or even a first home, their standard home in places like the UAE. Right now, it's amazing the amount of people that are going.
How's life in the UAE? Like you live there, so can you tell us how life is, the daily life in the UAE? Because people don't know that, and especially Americans, they don't know that. What is a common day in the UAE for a family? Let's say a family of mother, father, 2 kids.
I have one word to define. I have really one word to define living in the UAE: paradise.
Wow.
The reason, it is because I do not have to carry a gun. I do not have to. I do not have to worry about anything related to public safety. Nothing at all. At all.
Okay.
My house.
Big check.
Big check because my house, the door is always open. My car, I always leave the keys in the ignition, so I don't have to worry about anything. Nothing gets stolen. You go to the most popular shopping mall in the world, which is Dubai Mall, and you can see a slew of phones getting charged in the corridors, And while the people are going to the prayer rooms, while during prayer time, nobody steals anything. Nobody steals anything from you. There's no theft. So for you, it's like, what's going on here?
Civility.
And the only places I've seen this around the world, you can believe it or not, and I'm going to tell you, and the last one I'm going to say is going to surprise people, right? It's going to really blow people away, right?
All right.
Obviously, in the UAE, like I just said,
Yeah.
Singapore. Singapore is also, I haven't seen theft in Singapore at all. Extremely safe, beautiful place. It's small.
Yeah,
right?
I have been to Singapore. It's beautiful.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
it's cramped, but
Very strict police.
very strict police, very strict laws. But the food is great. The people are extremely nice. So Singapore. The other place that I saw Japan, which lives in my heart. Japan. You work for a Japanese company?
I did 9 years. Yeah, I did.
Yeah, and you know the culture. You know how it is.
Yeah.
But it's a culture very near to me. I have no Japanese descendant whatsoever. But for me, I really
you don't look Japanese.
yeah, I really love Japan. I really love spending time there. They have nowadays they have a visa for digital nomads.
Okay.
And so it's a great new thing. Started right now in March. Just started this month. 1st of March started the digital nomad visa in Japan. So you can actually live, work, and tax-free in Japan, by the way. And you can stay there for upwards of 6 months. And can you renew for another 6 months if you want to?
Another 6 months, okay.
A total of a year. So you can actually live in Japan if you want to. So it's really good. So Japan has zero violence, nothing. There's nothing in Japan. You can leave. You can literally, and I've seen it. I've seen a backpack in the same place, left where it was left. And you come back about 3-4 hours later, is there.
Still there, untouched.
There. Wow. That's Japan for you. That's Japan. So that another one. The next one I saw, you're not gonna believe when I say it was actually Kenya. And people think about the exact blow you away, right?
You did.
You did. Right. So people think about Africa and this, that, the other, and violence. And I saw zero violence in Africa. I've been to Kenya. I've been to Tanzania. I've been to Botswana. I've been to Zimbabwe, and I didn't see any violence. But most specifically, I didn't see any theft in Kenya. I didn't see.
What do you? Why do you think that? Why do you think that is?
I attribute this to a very simple reason. I think it's just, especially what I saw in Kenya is a great respect towards, especially tourists.
Okay.
They are very welcoming.
It's part of the revenue. They need the revenue, so
they need the revenue. I think they respect. I think, and they are very.
They respect it. Yeah.
That one thing that blew me away from both Kenya and Tanzania specifically, and to a certain extent to Botswana as well, was that they are extremely protective of tourists.
Okay.
And that was my experience. I mean,
it makes sense. It makes sense. They need them.
And I think that when I started talking to people, and you have that sense of, they want to be recognized and known and be part of an international circuit, and they don't want to be. And it's just amazing. I just thought about, wow, you have all this nature here, you have all these safaris.
Now.
Yeah. So why would they want to mess with you? They don't mess with anybody.
Exactly.
So people have this misconception about Africa, maybe this misconception about the Middle East. The Middle East is really, really safe.
If people don't know exactly. They don't know.
Yeah.
I didn't know. Before I started working with you, I had no idea.
Yeah, and extremely safe.
No idea.
You look at places like Abu Dhabi, right? It's extremely cultural. They have the Louvre Museum. They have opera houses. They have the biggest hotels, the biggest entertainment galore. Big artists go there and do concerts. I mean, we just had Ed Sheeran in Dubai, recently, the huge concert over there. So I think that, if you look, and people are like, oh, how is it for women in the Middle East?
Mm-hmm. Well, that's a big question. It's a big question, yeah.
And some countries are pretty strict, but the UAE, they have women in leadership. They have a ministry for women's rights. They are very completely. They don't have a box. They're it's not thinking outside the box. There's no box.
There's no box.
There's no box. So I think this is a testament to how advanced they are thinking. Their leaders are thinking. I mean, and it's no pun on my America. I love America. I love my country, my adoptive nation, and it gave me all the wonderful things that I've enjoyed, throughout my life, and gave me an education, and gave me opportunities, and gave me a career, and great experiences. But I have to say, I mean, nowadays, you have to really choose where you want to live in places like the U.S. I mean, it's not. I always say America is open for everybody, but it's not for everybody.
It's not for everybody.
Right?
Yeah.
So, and it can be really expensive for some people, really expensive. And healthcare, in my point of view, my personal opinion, healthcare is the biggest flaw in America, to be honest with you. I mean, I have to say, if you look at all the faults in America, I think the biggest fault is healthcare.
Yes, it's one of the biggest questions we get when we interview people that they're willing to move to America. How's the health system? How does it? Well, how much does it cost? It is a big issue.
So I did a cost comparison. As you know, I had a stroke and a heart attack. So in a period of 1 year,
yeah, I heard.
If I were to have those two incidents in the United States, I will, and without insurance, like I am,
impossible.
I carry
your lifetime savings.
Yeah, I carry zero insurance. So and it's for my own personal choice, and people find me crazy, but I carry zero insurance for health, for medical insurance. I rather pay out of pocket. I can negotiate directly. It is another conversation we can have. I can negotiate directly.
Another life, another day.
The point being is, what I had in these two instances, it would cost me in America at the very least probably more, upwards of $250,000.
Wow.
Right. And the total cost for me in the UAE was $36,000.
That's almost like 10%, 15%.
Yeah. So I think it's like, it suffices to say that, and I didn't have to, negotiate anything and all that. And this is top-notch medical care.
I'm sure. I am sure it is.
And do you know what the irony of it? Both times I was treated where? At the American Hospital of Dubai.
Was it a choice, or was it a coincidence? Was it an emergency?
The first time was just the emergency, and I had to. But the second time, I asked to
you
go
liked it, and then you
by choice. Yeah, by choice. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's a huge difference in pricing and in costs. I mean, food in the UAE, surprisingly, everything is imported, but surprisingly, it's quite affordable. I mean, it's equitable and comparable to places like, Miami, New York. So if you're used to those you live in Miami, so
Miami is very expensive currently.
Yeah,
very expensive. Everything from dining out to supermarket to rents to everything's very expensive in Miami. Yeah. Currently, it's tough. It's tough.
Yeah, it's tough. I know, but then again.
Leo, tell me something. If a family of, let's say, 35, 40-year-old couple of kids, they want to move, Americans, okay?
Right.
What would be, let's say, engineer? What would be a good place for them to go if they wanted to have an experience in Europe, for instance? What would be a good country? What would be a welcoming country for a family?
Welcoming country for a family, I would say definitely Portugal.
I'm talking about an American family.
Yeah,
American
definitely
family.
Portugal. Very welcoming for Americans. I would say the other one that is extremely welcoming and has wonderful programs is Germany.
Germany. I was going to say that. Yeah.
You're married to a German.
I am.
You know exactly how it is.
And I can tell you guys that we know that we can live in Brazil if you want to go back. We can live anywhere in Europe because my husband is German. But we can also be in America if you want. Having the ability to move around when you want, if you want, is absolutely amazing. It opens all doors. It opens up, blows your mind.
It does.
It does.
and
multiplies opportunities.
and most especially, I mean, if you look at it, there's a number of opportunities that we have seen flourishing for engineers right now in
Yes,
Germany.
yeah.
So there's a lot of job opportunities in Germany right now for engineers, for individuals with a lot of technical knowledge, and especially
Young people too. You mean you would would they welcome young as well, like
of
25 year
course,
old, 28
of
year old?
course, of course. I see that
Yeah,
all the time. I mean, I see a number of opportunities for young graduates
young graduates. Okay,
right now in Europe, and especially in Germany, in Luxembourg,
and
uh,
they all speak English,
and the advantages, they all speak English,
good
and
English.
they have a demand for people who speak, they have a high demand for people to provide support in other languages. So if you have a second language, or even a first language, if you speak Portuguese, Spanish, Italian, they need people that speak these other languages. So you have a place like Germany, in Berlin right now is booming. You see, you only hear English everywhere because you can only hear it. It's Americans everywhere in Berlin right now.
Really,
It's amazing, and the quality of life in Berlin is it's amazing. You have great nightclubs, you have great restaurants, you have a great standard of childcare, of education. I mean, I'm very partial to Germany. I'm sorry, I am. I really love Germany. I visited Germany for many years, every year. My brother was living there,
also civilized, so civilized.
so civilized. Great transportation system.
Transportation system. Oh, I live in Miami. Public transportation is non-existent.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoy just taking the tram, the tram inside around Berlin. For me, it's just wonderful. I mean, I just have a great time. I mean, honestly, Europe is a blast. But obviously, you look at other places as well. Okay, Leo, but I don't have that kind of job. I don't have that. Where would you go, right, to actually
Okay, good question.
where would you go to start your career? I would say to a place that is good for you to start your career. Honestly, to this day, I would still think Ireland right now is giving you a great Ireland. Yes, Ireland is great. The problem with Ireland right now is finding a place to live, because they're having a huge housing crisis, and you're going to have difficulty finding a good place for you to live that is also affordable. But if you want to jump over to the next island, to the UK,
I was going to say the UK.
Yeah.
That one was going to say the UK. Yeah.
They also have great opportunities. They have, they are trying to make it a little bit less complicated for employers to sponsor for visas, and that's the reason why we reopened our office in London. You're looking at, and believe it or not, there are great opportunities in the Netherlands, and there's for Americans who don't know.
We're focusing on Americans. Yeah.
So for Americans specifically, there is a Dutch-American treaty, and the Dutch-American treaty allows for Americans to live in the Netherlands for upwards of 2 years with a what's called a long-term temporary resident visa. And the Dutch-American
so
treaty,
work and live and invest and study. Oh, wow.
All of it. That's the Dutch-American visa.
Only Netherlands, and just for Americans.
Yeah, it's a Dutch-American, and just because it's part of the Schengen area, they are allowed to obviously travel, roam freely in the Schengen area, and they can buy a second home in Spain, a second home in the south of France, or whatever.
It's so big, so many options. Yeah, we really should not reserve ourselves. Just open. We should open our minds. We really should open.
People shouldn't be constricted by geography. Right, I think geography is the biggest problem that people have in their minds. That they're stuck in that particular, their single location, if you will, and I think that people need to broaden their horizons.
Yeah. And immigration doesn't mean you have to stay in another country for the rest of your life. It can be like a couple of years, have an international experience in Europe and then an international experience somewhere in the UAE or in America. But having an international experience, you gain so much culture, so much experience from it. You really should. And I think young people, they're much more mobile, and they are trying. They really want us to have a 2 or 3 year experience in another country. They really go for it. Really go for it. I think. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
And I think a lot of people, well, but I'm an American. I want to live in America. Okay, great. Let me give you then, all the options for you in America. And if you want Americans, they want to live in America, but they don't want to live, where it's extremely complicated. I'll make it easier then. You want to have a different experience, but you still want to be in America. Go live in Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico allows Americans to live in Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
Literally 4% tax.
4% tax? That's what you said?
Yes, that's what I said.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
How can you know so much? You know so many details about so much. It's amazing.
You need to be resident in Puerto Rico. You need to have a business in Puerto Rico and take advantage of that particular tax bracket. Of course,
live in paradise, live in the Caribbean.
In the Caribbean, you're going to have a different experience. Or you can live in the U.S. Virgin Islands, or you can live. You can live if you want to be close by and you want to live in a nice experience as well. You can live in one of the expat enclaves of the Bahamas as well. Just a 35-minute plane ride from Fort Lauderdale. So you can actually, you can actually, get on a Cessna and just go to the Bahamas if you want to, and be ferrying back and forth, and
scuba dive on the weekends.
Exactly.
This is my thing.
I know I have friends of mine who actually, they have an apartment in Florida, but they live in Nassau. And they commute back and forth. So they come in every day.
How? By plane?
They have their own Cessna. So I meant the Cessna.
Wow. They commute from Nassau every day. It is a 25, 30-minute flight. It is.
It's nothing. They go in and say, okay, I'm going to go to work. They wake up early. They go to work, and they go to the U.S. side, and then they work.
It's just a matter of opening your mind.
And then they go back to
opening your mind.
They go back to the Bahamas at the end of the day. So they back home at the end of the day. So there you have it.
There you have it. Amazing.
Yeah. So it's like, I love to hear this kind of thing because it shows me that you can
be anywhere and enjoy the experience. Exactly.
Yes. So I love that.
There you go.
So I see here the comments as well. Look, it's amazing. And they're talking about the,
Ministry of Happiness. What is that?
Ministry of Happiness is in Dubai. You actually have in the UAE, you have a Ministry of Happiness.
In the UAE, you have a Ministry of Happiness. Okay, tell me about it.
Because
what is it? How does it work? What does it do?
Ministry of Happiness to make sure that the populace is happy.
Make sure everybody's happy.
Make sure that everybody is happy.
So what is it? What do they do? They do polls. They do interviews. They check.
How does it work? They take feedback from the population to ensure that things are being done in a proper way. How's your quality of life? Are you having trouble going to work? Is the commute to work bothering you? If it is, we have to build more roads. And then we're building more roads, or building more access.
Wow.
Are you having access to the healthcare that you want? Although it's not free, but they still want you to have access.
They make it affordable.
Yep. I mean, I look at my medication. I take a medication called Mounjaro, right, for my weight loss. And that medication in the United States cost me $3,000. And the medication over there, it costs 1/5 of that.
So that makes you happy.
It makes me happy.
There you go, Ministry of Happiness.
Right? So that is amazing, right? So a lot of people don't get it, that you can live in a place that it respects your individuality, respects your living. And people are wondering like, oh, why? And it's like, and they were mentioning about scuba diving over there.
Yeah, well,
In Bahamas. Yeah, you can actually scuba dive in the Red Sea as well. So
yes.
which is
Yes.
amazing scuba
Open
dive.
your mind. Well, Ministry of Happiness was the biggest surprise of the evening. I mean, it is amazing. We people should care. Really, the government should care and ask what's missing from you. What makes you happy? Well, how can I make you happier?
Well, the thing of it is, I think personally, a lot of people are not familiar with how things work around the world.
They are not.
The misconception of, oh, you live in the Middle East, it's wars and conflicts. None of that.
No,
I mean,
and it is lack of information, really. It is.
Yeah, none of that. None of that. I mean,
I am a person who has traveled many countries in my life, and I've been around. But until I started working with you, UAE was absolutely not in the picture for me. I did not know anything about it, and it was a misconception. Yeah, and I would say, no, I will never go there. But then, you really brought this to my attention, and I'm very curious to get to know the place, because it was misconception. It was lack of information. And I have traveled the world. I have been, to places, nice places, but this is really a surprise for me. When I started working with you, that's when I really
people automatically think, Middle East, they think women with burqas and everything, and
they think war. They think war. They think war.
Lack of women's rights and all that. Is none of that. I mean,
it is. That's what they think.
There are countries in the Middle East that it can be. And the same thing, in the same manner where you say, well, I'm from Brazil, I don't live in the jungle. Yeah, but there's certain countries in Latin America where you actually living in the jungle, That's how it is.
There's part of Brazil where you live in the jungle.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. But it's not everywhere, it's like
it's not everywhere. Yeah.
So it's kind of like you need to be able to come to the realization that there are many places around the world where you really don't know. I mean, look at places when I say to you Mongolia, what is the first thing that comes up in your mind?
Mongolia. Well, it comes
definitely
to
not nature, right? Definitely not nature, right?
No, not at all. Not at all. I thought about a lot of people and a high density population. That's what came to my. I wasn't sure if I should say it, because I don't know if I'm correct, but this is what came to my mind.
Right, but it's one of the most interesting places around the world, because it has such a beautiful nature. Such a beautiful nature. It's really amazing.
Well, you were in China recently last year. You spent some time there. And how was it there? What about living in China?
There's a lot of Americans living in China, and doesn't mean that they are turning redcoats.
No, not at all. Not at all. I did
it's
not
just
say
because of employment opportunity, just because of things the way it is. And China it's a wonderful place to live and work and visit. Of course, there are certain interesting factoids, and different type. It's a different culture. It's a millennial culture. It's a lot of. It's very deep rooted in a lot of.
Leo, let's wait a little bit. I think he has some connection problem.
Connected here. Oh, here we are.
There you go. We're back. You were talking about China.
Yeah, so China is one of the places that it's very unique in many ways, because it's deep rooted in a lot of things that are related to the culture it's a millennial culture. So it's a really, really amazing place to live and work. For me, personally, I think that a lot of people would enjoy. I mean, I lived in Hong Kong for about a year.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I lived in Hong Kong for about a year back in the 90s. And I think it was one of the most interesting places I lived in around the world, to be honest with you. And
very international.
Yeah, very international, for sure. And we have here Mongolia is famous for its horse milk. That's true.
Horse milk? You mean horse milk? Really? Horse milk?
Yes. Yeah.
Milk
Yeah.
from horse.
Let's put it this way: equine milk, right?
Equine milk.
Equine milk. Female horses, like
Female horses. Thank you, Pedro. Thank you. Yeah, female horses.
equine milk.
Did you taste it?
I've tasted. Yes, I've tasted before.
Milk.
It's strong. It tastes like camel's milk. There's the
No,
camel.
I was going to say that I tried chocolate made out of camel milk. It is stronger, but it's good.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah,
it is good. It's good.
All right.
If there's any questions here?
A lot of
maybe food. Well, food from Chinese food. Chinese food is amazing.
Chinese food is
amazing. Yeah, Chinese food is amazing.
Food is really good. Really good. So I mean, look, you need to open your mind. There's so many opportunities in places around the world. Of course,
it's not that hard, right, Leo? It's not that difficult. It's less complicated than we think.
Exactly. And
much like Shanghai.
The viewer here has seen. I've been to Hong Kong a few times, and each time I like it more. Much like Shanghai. Shanghai is really, it's where our office is. We have an office in Hong Kong.
Yeah, we do.
Shanghai. So it's amazing. I mean, I really have a great time every time I go to Shanghai. Again, it's different strokes for different folks, but if you open your mind and be able to enjoy the place, you'll be able to have a great time.
Yeah, I hope that Americans will open more their minds towards trying new places to live, not just travel and visit, but leave America a little bit more.
Oh, by the way,
since America is such a good,
zero violence in China. Zero violence. Zero violence. No, I didn't see an armed robbery. I didn't see anybody jacking. No, none. No. And it's a lot of people.
Yeah. You can really get fooled. Yeah.
I've had a great time. Every time I've gone to China, except the fact that they give me a hard time every time I go through immigration because of my previous job.
Okay. Well, here he comes again.
So every time I get sent to secondary every time I go to China.
Every time. Oh my God. Well, it's on you. Well, last summer, we took a vacation with a family to Europe. Mm-hmm. And that was the first time we were on a cruise ship. And I can say very easily, 80% of the cruise ship was redneck Americans from the inner states, absolutely out there in Europe visiting. Amazing people, very, very friendly people out there getting to know other places. 80% of the cruise ship were Americans.
Exactly. And you know what's happening right now? And you're gonna be really surprised when I'm gonna say this, because it's gonna blow your mind. Guess where a lot of Americans are establishing residency and trying to obtain citizenship? It's gonna blow your mind.
Give me a hint, just a hint.
A hint.
Yeah.
Well, it's Latin America, but you have to think about the country.
I wouldn't say Brazil.
No, Mexico.
Mexico.
Yeah, a lot of Americans are establishing residency in Mexico.
And what would be the reason? Proximity?
Especially people who are working in the agro business.
Okay.
They're buying farmland. They're farming in Mexico, and they're bringing into the United States and making money from farms that they actually own in Mexico.
So they have Mexican labor?
Yes. No, they have Mexican labor. They are investing in Mexico. They are living abroad. They have the
it is an international experience. You cannot say it isn't. It's close by, but it is.
Yeah. Right. You have people like right on the border, crossing the border, and it's like, all these people crossing the border to the U.S. and they're like, oh, I'm going to cross the border back to Mexico. So it's like, and they're getting a second passport. They're getting Mexican passports.
Oh, wow.
Because after 4 years that you are living as a resident in Mexico, you can apply for
You got a
citizenship.
passport.
You
And
can
how
apply for
long
citizenship.
is this a recent thing? Is this a recent
No, it's been like that for a while, for many years.
Sure.
But now Americans are catching up to that, and people are living in Mexico where for them is a little bit they buy in properties like here, and like the
They're
viewers.
also buying properties. Yeah, there's
Yeah, they buy it. They have. By the way, the cost of these properties, which are mansions, which they have in places like Puerto Vallarta, Acapulco,
okay.
in the Baja California, they have amazing, beautiful resort-like places, and they are actually buying up properties over there. So it's an amazing opportunities for Americans who are investing. They live in vacation. They live in. It's like we see Brazilians going and living in Orlando in vacation homes.
Yeah.
Same story. Americans are going to live in vacation homes in the.
Well, the proximity helps. Yeah.
Exactly. So it's amazing. It's happening a lot around the world. So it's really. So think about it.
Yeah.
Somebody's trying to flee from that country. There are other people that are trying to really get into those countries.
It's crazy. Yeah, it is crazy when you think about it. Yeah.
So think about it. The world is your oyster. You have to decide where you feel good, where you feel at home, and then you have to explore.
And we can help everybody in that way. We can
Yes,
take
we do.
you anywhere. Yeah, we can
Yes,
take
we
you
do.
anywhere.
Yes.
Let us help you. Let us help
Let
you
us help
find.
you get there everywhere.
Let us help you discover the world and have international experiences. Take your kids abroad. Take them to live somewhere else. Learn another language, another
Precisely.
culture. Yeah, take them. We'll help you. We will help you.
All right. Well, guys, that's it for me for tonight. Thank you, Renata. Appreciate it.
Thank you. It was amazing. So much knowledge.
Thank you, viewers. And we'll see you next time. Perhaps next week, the same time here, we're going to do another live.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Bye. Bye.